spoke about.
I've been on that pedestal at that podium praising Caitlin Clark. And if I had a vote, I would vote for her because nobody touches the ball more than her. The offense goes through her. I saw a stat that was remarkable in WNBA history. She creates either with her assists or with her scoring 40 and a half points. 40 and a half points is the average of an Indiana Fever game. That's how much she impacts the game.
There's a brutal, undeniable reality about the establishment that controls the MVP conversation in the WNBA that they desperately try to hide from every single person who watches this league. For months, the old guard has been pushing one narrative, that A'ja Wilson is the automatic, unquestioned, inevitable most valuable player of this season, while Caitlin Clark has been forced to absorb absolute silence from the people who decide these awards. Even as she rewrites the record books and drags the Indiana Fever from lottery obscurity to playoff contention. But that era is officially dead and buried. Caitlin Clark just passed A'ja Wilson in the MVP race, the Indiana Fever just leapfrogged the Las Vegas Aces in the standings, and the entire balance of power in this league just shifted. Welcome back. This is WNBA Flash, and today we are ripping the doors off the MVP conversation the establishment refuses to let you have. Because the numbers, the wins, the ratings, and the receipts all point to one conclusion, and it is not the one they have been selling you.
And I know Jason and Caroline, we have this conversation all the time. We do this in other sports, don't we too? The meaning of valuable, the meaning of production.
And also, winning plays a part. Winning plays a part. Now that Caitlin Clark has surpassed A'ja Wilson and the Indiana Fever have surpassed the Aces in the standings, oh, this is a whole nother conversation now.
Before we get to the exact moment Caitlin Clark overtook A'ja Wilson on the MVP leaderboard, I need you to understand the context that every single mainstream outlet has been deliberately ignoring. While the Aces have been stumbling, dropping games they should win, falling in the standings week after week, Caitlin Clark has been on an absolute tear. 4 consecutive Player of the Week awards. 4 consecutive. Let that sink in for a second. And on top of that, she just shattered another viewership record, this time on ION TV. The matchup between Caitlin Clark and Paige Bueckers pulled in an average of 1.62 million viewers, peaking at 2.2 million. That is the most watched game in ION TV history for the WNBA. Not close, not competitive, the most ever. And I have been documenting this pattern for 3 months now, telling you in video after video that Caitlin Clark is not just a rookie sensation, she is the single most valuable player to this league on the court and off it. The receipts are in the comments of my last 6 videos, go check them. Every prediction I made about her impact, about her ascent, about the moment the Fever would pass the Aces, it is all coming true. And now we are at the tipping point.
Here for MVP. She wouldn't have. And Afisa Collier dealt with an injury as well.
What's the difference? I say Caitlin Clark, she should be right up there with A'ja Wilson.
Let me lay out the concrete evidence that proves Caitlin Clark has officially taken over this MVP race. After the Fever's most recent win and the Aces' most recent loss, the standings shifted. The Indiana Fever are now the 3 seed in the WNBA playoff picture with a record of 24 wins and 12 losses. The Las Vegas Aces, the defending champions, the team that was supposed to cruise to the top seed, have dropped below them. The Aces have faltered, they have stumbled. And when the standings flip like that, the MVP conversation changes. It has to, because winning matters. Winning has always mattered in MVP voting, and the people who tell you it does not are lying to protect their preferred narrative. Look at what happened last season. If the Las Vegas Aces had not gone on that insane winning streak at the end of the year, if they had not finished the season red hot going into the playoffs, A'ja Wilson would not have overtaken Afisa Collier for MVP. She would not have. The Lynx were the better team for most of the season. Collier was putting up monster numbers, but the Aces got hot at the right time and the voters rewarded Wilson. So do not tell me winning does not matter. It matters. It has always mattered. And now that the Fever have a better record than the Aces, that same logic applies to Caitlin Clark. Let me show you the statistical comparison, because this is where it gets even more undeniable. Caitlin Clark is currently averaging 22 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds per game. A'ja Wilson is putting up monster numbers too, no one is denying that, but the gap is not what the establishment wants you to believe. In the last 12 games, Caitlin Clark has created 46 points per game when you account for her scoring and her assists. 46. That means nearly half of the Fever's offensive output runs through her hands. She has totaled 313 points, 110 assists, and 41 rebounds over that stretch. A'ja Wilson over the same span has 319 points, 40 assists, and 114 rebounds. The scoring is virtually identical. The rebounding edge goes to Wilson. She is a dominant interior presence that is expected. But the playmaking is not even close. Caitlin Clark has 110 assists to Wilson's 40. That is the difference between a player who is the entire offensive engine and a player who is a scoring machine but does not run the offense. Both are elite. Both are MVP caliber. But when you add in the fact that Caitlin Clark's team now has a better record, the tiebreaker is obvious. And then there is Olivia Miles. Let me be clear, I have nothing but respect for Olivia Miles. She is having a phenomenal rookie season. She is a huge part of why the Minnesota Lynx are the #1 seed in the league. But statistically, she is not in the same ballpark as Caitlin Clark or Aja Wilson, not even close. Over the last 12 games, Olivia Miles has put up 250 points, 83 assists, and 54 rebounds. Compare that to Caitlin Clark's 313 points, 110 assists, 41 rebounds. It is not comparable. Both players won Player of the Week honors recently, but look at the stat lines. Caitlin Clark, 26 points, 10 assists, 51% shooting. Olivia Miles, 18 points, 8 assists, 5 rebounds. The gap is massive, massive, and I want every single person watching this video to understand this is not about disrespecting Olivia Miles. This is about being honest about the levels. There are levels to this thing. Caitlin Clark is on a different tier. Paige Bueckers, who was in the MVP conversation earlier in the season, is no longer a factor. The Dallas Wings have lost 8 of their last 11 games and have fallen all the way to 8th place in the standings. When your team is sinking like that, you are out of the MVP race. That is how it works. Kelsey Mitchell and Breena Stewart are both having excellent seasons, but neither has the narrative momentum or the statistical dominance to challenge Clark or Wilson at this point, so the race has narrowed to 2 players. Caitlin Clark, Aja Wilson, and the tiebreaker is wins. The Fever have more wins than the Aces. Caitlin Clark is #1.
Spoke about
I've been on that pedestal at that podium praising Caitlin Clark, and if I had a vote, I would vote for her because nobody touches the ball more than her. The offense goes through her. I saw a stat that was remarkable in WNBA history. She creates either with her assists or with her scoring 40 and a half points. 40 and a half points is the average of an Indiana Fever game. That's how much she impacts the game.
Now do not take my word for it. Let me show you what one of the most respected voices in women's basketball just said on the record about this exact topic. Linda Cohn joined Yahoo Sports to break down the MVP race, and what she said should end the debate. Watch this.
And I know Jason and Caroline, we have this conversation all the time. We do this in other sports, don't we, too? The meaning of valuable, the meaning of production.
and also winning plays a part. Winning plays a part. Now that Caitlin Clark has surpassed Asia Wilson and the Indiana Fever have surpassed the Aces in the standings, oh, this is a whole nother conversation now.
She said it with cameras rolling. Linda Cohn, one of the most credible analysts covering this league, looked directly into the camera and said if she had a vote, she would vote for Caitlin Clark. Let me say that back to you in case you missed it. If Linda Cohn had an MVP vote, it would go to Caitlin Clark, not Aja Wilson, not Olivia Miles, Caitlin Clark. And the reason she gave is the exact reason I have been hammering home in every single video on this channel for the last month. Nobody touches the ball more than Caitlin Clark. The offense goes through her. She's responsible for 40.5 points per game when you add up her scoring and the points created by her assists. 40.5 points. That is more than half of the Fever's average offensive output. That is how much she impacts the game. And Linda Cohn saw a stat that she called remarkable in WNBA history. The way Caitlin Clark creates offense with her scoring and her assists is unprecedented for a rookie. Unprecedented. That is the word she used. This is not hype. This is not media bias. This is statistical reality.
Here for MVP. She wouldn't have. She wouldn't have. And Afisa Collier dealt with an injury as well.
What's the difference? I say Caitlin Clark. She should be right up there with Asia Wilson.
And then Linda Cohn asked the question that every single MVP voter needs to answer. What does the word valuable actually mean? Because if we are being honest, the award is not called most dominant player. It is not called best stats player. It is called most valuable player. And the word valuable has to include what you mean to your team, what you mean to the league, and whether your team wins because of you. Aja Wilson is a machine. No one is disputing that. She leads the league in scoring average and rebounding average. She's one of the all-time greats, but valuable is not the same as dominant. Valuable means your team cannot function without you. Valuable means the offense runs through you every single possession. Valuable means when you sit, the entire system collapses. That is Caitlin Clark. The Indiana Fever were a lottery team before she arrived. They were irrelevant. They were unwatchable. And now they are the 3 seed in the playoff race, and Caitlin Clark is the reason why. That is value. Linda Cohn also pointed out that Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell are the best backcourt tandem in the WNBA right now. And she is right. Kelsey Mitchell is having a career year, and a huge part of that is because Caitlin Clark is creating open looks for her, running the offense, taking defensive pressure off her. If Caitlin Clark is not the MVP, then why is Kelsey Mitchell not in the conversation too? Because the Fever's success is a direct result of what Caitlin Clark does on the floor. You cannot separate the two. Now let me show you the second clip. Because this is where Linda Cohn draws the exact parallel that exposes the hypocrisy of the people who want to give the MVP to Aja Wilson based purely on stats. Listen to this. There it is, the receipt nobody on TV will play for you because of what it proves. Linda Cohn just confirmed that we have this exact same debate in every sport every single year. The meaning of valuable versus the meaning of production. And she explicitly said that winning plays a part. Winning plays a part. Now that Caitlin Clark has surpassed Aja Wilson in the standings, now that the Indiana Fever have passed the Aces, this is a whole different conversation. It is a whole different conversation. And then she dropped the historical precedent that destroys the argument for giving Aja Wilson the MVP based on stats alone. Last season, if the Las Vegas Aces had not gone on that crazy winning streak and finished the season super hot going into the playoffs, Aja Wilson would not have overtaken Napheesa Collier for MVP. She would not have. And Napheesa Collier dealt with an injury as well. But the Aces got hot. They won games and the voters rewarded Wilson. So if winning mattered last year when it benefited Aja Wilson, then winning has to matter this year when it benefits Caitlin Clark. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot say winning matters when it helps your preferred candidate and then ignore it when it helps someone else. That is not how logic works. That is not how fairness works. And every single person watching this video knows it. Let me escalate this even further because there is a tactical failure happening right now with the Las Vegas Aces that nobody in the mainstream media wants to talk about. The Aces are faltering at the worst possible time. They are dropping games they should win. They are losing their grip on the top of the standings. And the reason is not just bad luck or injuries. It is a failure of execution, a failure of consistency, and a failure of leadership. When you are the defending champions, when you have the talent the Aces have, when you have a two-time MVP on your roster, you are not supposed to be falling behind a team that was in the lottery last year. You are not supposed to be getting outplayed by a rookie. But that is exactly what is happening. The Aces are getting outworked, out-hustled, and out-coached by the Indiana Fever. And the person paying the price for that is Aja Wilson. Because her MVP case is crumbling as her team slides down the standings. That is not coaching, that is sabotage. That is what happens when a franchise gets complacent, when they assume they can coast on talent alone, when they stop doing the little things that win championships. And Aja Wilson is the one who loses the MVP because of it. This is not the first time we have seen this pattern. 3 years ago, the Aces had the same problem. They had the talent. They had the stars, but they could not close games in the clutch and they flamed out in the playoffs. 2 years ago, same story. Last year they finally figured it out, they went on that run and they won the championship. But this year the cracks are showing again. The Aces have now lost multiple games in the final 2 minutes. They have blown leads. They have failed to execute in crunch time. 3 games, 3 identical mistakes. 3 times Aja Wilson paid the price. And every single one of those losses is a dagger in her MVP campaign because voters are watching the standings and they are seeing the Fever climb while the Aces fall. And where is the accountability? Where are the assistant coaches? Where is the front office? Where are the people who are supposed to be holding this team to a standard? They are silent, completely silent. The Aces coaching staff has not made a single public adjustment. The front office has not addressed the slide. The media that covers the Aces has not asked the hard questions, and every single one of them stayed silent. Receipts coming. Because when the Fever finish ahead of the Aces in the final standings, when Caitlin Clark wins the MVP, all of those people are going to have to answer for why they did not see it coming. And I am going to have the clips ready. Here is what this is costing Aja Wilson. She is in the prime of her career. She is 28 years old. She is at the peak of her powers. She should be adding to her legacy, stacking MVP trophies, cementing herself as one of the greatest players in WNBA history. But instead, her team is failing her. Her coaching staff is failing her, and her MVP case is slipping away because the wins are not there. That is what Aja Wilson's prime is being burned for, not because she is not good enough, not because she is not dominant, but because the people around her are not doing their jobs and she is the one who pays the price. And that is a tragedy. It is a tragedy for her, and it is a tragedy for the league, because we should be celebrating 2 all-time greats going head-to-head for MVP, not watching one of them get sabotaged by her own franchise. Now let me show you the third clip, because this is where Linda Cohn makes the prediction that should terrify every Aja Wilson supporter. Watch this. Did you catch that? Linda Cohn does not care about individual awards. She cares about winning when it matters most. And when the host asked her how many MVPs Caitlin Clark will win in her career, Linda Cohn flipped the question. She said the better question is how many championships will Caitlin Clark win? And her answer, at least 2, multiple championships, multiple finals MVPs. That is the projection from one of the most respected voices in the sport. Not 1 championship, not 1 finals MVP. Multiple, and if Caitlin Clark wins multiple championships, she is going to win multiple MVPs along the way. That is how it works, because MVP voters reward winners, they always have. And if the Fever keep climbing, if they keep building around Caitlin Clark, if they keep adding pieces and developing chemistry, there is no reason they cannot become a dynasty. And when that happens, Caitlin Clark is going to have a mantle full of MVP trophies, and all the people who doubted her, all the people who said Aja Wilson was automatic, all the people who ignored the wins, they are all going to look foolish. Let me now give you my 5 staked predictions, because this is where I am putting my credibility on the line. If I am wrong about any of these, come back to this video and roast me in the comments. I will own it. But I am telling you right now, these 5 things are going to happen, and when they do, I want every single person to remember that WNBA Flash called it first. Prediction number 1, A'ja Wilson's MVP case is dead if the Aces finish below the Fever in the standings. If the Indiana Fever hold onto the 3 seed and the Las Vegas Aces finish 4th or lower, A'ja Wilson will not win MVP. The voters will not give it to her. They cannot, because the precedent is already set. Winning matters. It mattered last year when it helped A'ja Wilson beat Nafisa Collier. It mattered the year before. It mattered in every MVP race in WNBA history, and it is going to matter this year. If the Aces finish below the Fever, Caitlin Clark wins MVP. Save this clip. Prediction number 2, Caitlin Clark is going to break the single-season assist record before the playoffs start. She is currently averaging 8 assists per game, and the Fever have 6 games left in the regular season. If she keeps up this pace, she is going to shatter the rookie assist record and challenge the all-time single-season record. And when she does, that is going to be one more piece of evidence that she is the most valuable player in this league. Mark this video. Prediction number 3, the mainstream media is going to flip the narrative in the final 2 weeks of the season. Right now, most of the major outlets are still pushing A'ja Wilson as the MVP favorite. But when the Fever clinch a higher seed than the Aces, when the stats become undeniable, when the ratings keep spiking every time Caitlin Clark plays, the narrative is going to shift. ESPN is going to run a feature on Caitlin Clark's MVP case. The Athletic is going to publish a deep dive on her impact, and all the analysts who have been ignoring her are going to suddenly pretend they saw it coming all along. Watch the next 2 weeks. Prediction number 4. Olivia Miles is going to finish 3rd in MVP voting, and it is going to be a distant 3rd. She is having a great rookie season. She is a huge part of the Lynx' success. But she is not going to get serious MVP consideration because the stats are not there, and she is not the focal point of her team's offense the way Caitlin Clark is. The top 2 are going to be Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson, and Olivia Miles is going to be a clear 3rd. Save this prediction. Prediction number 5. The Indiana Fever are going to make it to the 2nd round of the playoffs, and Caitlin Clark is going to average a double-double in the postseason. This team is peaking at the right time. They are playing their best basketball of the season. Caitlin Clark is in complete control of the offense. Kelsey Mitchell is playing like an all-star, and the Fever are going to shock people in the playoffs. They are not just happy to be there, they are dangerous. And when Caitlin Clark goes out and dominates in her first playoff series, that is going to cement her legacy as not just Rookie of the Year, not just MVP, but as one of the most impactful first-year players in the history of women's basketball. Mark this video, come back in 3 weeks, and tell me I was wrong. Let me close with the emotional truth that nobody on TV is willing to say out loud. Caitlin Clark is doing something that has never been done before in this league. She is a rookie. She is 22 years old. She is playing on a team that was a laughingstock 12 months ago. And she has dragged them to playoff contention, rewritten the record books, shattered every viewership record in sight, and is now on the verge of winning the MVP award in her first professional season. That is not normal. That is not something that happens every generation. That is once in a lifetime. And if you are watching this league right now, if you are paying attention to what Caitlin Clark is doing night after night after night, you are witnessing history. You are watching the arrival of a generational superstar. And 20 years from now, when people look back on this season, they are going to remember it as the year Caitlin Clark changed everything. The year the WNBA exploded into the mainstream. The year a rookie from Iowa became the biggest name in women's sports. And the year the MVP race was decided not by who had the best stats, but by who was the most valuable to their team, to the league, and to the future of the game. That player is Caitlin Clark, and it is not even close. Drop your most honest take in the comments. Is Caitlin Clark the undisputed MVP of this league, or is A'ja Wilson's statistical dominance enough to overcome the wins gap? Pick a side. Defend it, and while you are down there, save this comment. If the Indiana Fever finish ahead of the Las Vegas Aces in the final standings and Caitlin Clark wins MVP, come back and tell me I called it. If I am wrong, roast me. I will own it. Tag the friend who keeps telling you A'ja Wilson is automatic. Make them watch this video and tell you they still believe it. And here's what is coming next. Tomorrow we are going to break down what happens if the Fever and the Aces meet in the playoffs and why that series could define the next 5 years of the WNBA. If you are not subscribed, you are going to miss it. Hit the bell. This is WNBA Flash. We will see you in the next video.